Good morning. Nice to see all of you. I'm Gail Anderson and this is Mentoring Moments for Moms. Today we're going to take your questions. But while you're all joining, just want to explain a little bit again about who I am. I'm Gail Anderson. I am a mom of 5 grown children. I am a grandmother of 5, which I absolutely love. Absolutely love. It's wonderful. Hi, happy, not perfect. Nice to see you. I've been a pastor's wife for 36 years. We've really been released from the ministry aspect within the local church and now do our own blogging, our own website. We go around and teach, we mentor, we coach, all kinds of stuff. Glad to catch you live. Thank you. Yes, you can catch me on Catch Me anytime you want, katch.me/Gail Anderson. That will give you all my previous scopes. But today, we're going to start out with some questions. Mom to 2, 3 and 1. Fantastic. Hey, it's an exciting time of life. I know it's challenging. I know that there are struggles that you have, but enjoy this time. It is an adventure, and that's really what I want to do today is help you through that adventure. So I have a mom with a 3.5-year-old and a newborn who asked about potty training. So not sure if you saw that scope that I did back in March, but that was one of the longest ones I did. And it's all my best times, all my best hints on potty training. So I would suggest you go back on the Catch Me. The link is in the profile, and go back to that one on potty training, especially since it's a boy. That's very helpful. The other thing I want to say about that is you have a new baby and a toddler, 3.5-year-old. I would drop back 5 and give yourself some space. Right now is just not the best time. Thank you, Courtney. Best tips on potty training you learned from that scope. Very good. But right now, you've got a lot of stress on you with a new baby. He's got a lot of stress adjusting to not being the only child and getting that attention. So just drop back a little bit. I mean, you want to make that time with your toddler positive. You want to reinforce that relationship with him and not have a stressful thing by trying to potty train. So whether that be go back and pull-ups, just starting to potty train after naps until the end of the day, or just putting him on a few times where you know he's going to go first thing when he wakes up from naps, before he goes to bed, or before you set him in the tub, because they always want to pee then. It would be wonderful just to wait a few months. So check that scope out for some more ideas. Another question came through on what to do with the toddler not eating. I did do a blog on this. It is called, let me see, I don't have it here. Oh, What to Do About a Picky Eater. That's on our blog, and the link is in our profile. It's kirbyanderson.com. But I just want to give you some hints. First of all, offer nutritious meals, yes, but also make sure that there is something offered on the table each meal that you know that child will like. Now, I know you mentioned your child likes cheese. Well, I hate to say, feed him cheese all the time, but, at least put something on the table that you know he'll eat. What you want to get away from is having him leave the table, not eat, and then be begging you for other foods. Welcome. That must be Amanda, maybe? Okay. Okay, got a 4-month-old, feel guilty for doing me time. Oh my goodness, you do have to have me time. Let me get back to this eating thing. Okay, so offer nutritious foods, offer some things on the table that he will eat so he eats something. And just make sure that you're not allowing him free access to foods. Now for toddlers, they have these little straps, a little lock you can put on the refrigerator. I mean, one of the rules in our house was they could not take food without permission. And I think that's important. I mean, you're in charge. You're the one who should be deciding what kinds of foods they eat. Thanks for those hearts. If you guys like what you're hearing, please give me some hearts. Tap on your screen. And also you can share this broadcast. We're probably going to be here longer than my usual 5 to 10 minute tidbits. So swipe to the right. You can share this broadcast with your other Twitter followers. So if he's not eating at his meal, then you want to make sure he's not snacking in between. Anytime he's hungry, offer him water. Now, if he's 3.5, that's not real rough. That can be the point where you know he's not going to starve if he's not eating a ton. And then maybe you move the next meal up a little bit. But you want to train him to eat at those meal times. If he eats at that meal time, then having a little snack in between is not a problem. But if he's not eating at meals, then you want to eliminate those snacks and just offer him water. A 3.5-year-old can understand what you're talking about. So you really should sit down and talk about the new plan. This is how we're going to do it from now on. So make sure you are not allowing him free access to food. Put a little plastic lock on the refrigerator, put other snack foods up. He should not be able to take food on his own. Now, when the kids were older, we always had them do 2 bites of something, especially if it was something new, because we wanted them to try it. We wanted their palates to be exposed to different things. But if they didn't like it, it was okay. We did offer them an option of a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Now, there were certain meals that there were a couple kids getting up and getting, peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, or I would make it for them and bring it to the table. But having a lot of options, being able to just get up from the table and help themselves to anything is not something that's probably that great an idea anyway. At least if you put some things on the table that you know he'll like to eat, then he gets some nutrition. The other thing is, there is a need for him to stay at the table. Now, once a toddler is not in a high chair, that becomes a little bit more difficult. What we did with ours, we had these little sassy seats that hung on the table, or we did the booster seats. And of course, you have chairs where they could actually fall from the side. So we always took like a scarf or something and wrapped it around and kind of tied it. It's a really good goal to have a habit of having your children stay at the table for the meal. And that's something that I know has to be trained. It is not normal. They want to get up, they want to grab other food, they want to do this and that. So we established that as a habit for the family. And next week I'm going to talk a little bit more about those home manners for eating and those habits that we have at the table. Okay, so when you finally do excuse a child from the table, from the meal, then he's done. It's important that you not let him come back and forth and back and forth. I mean, you are setting standards. This is the way it's going to be for the rest of the time he's in your home. So it's really good to establish those standards now. It's just out of respect. Respect for the other people eating, respect for the person who made the food. So try and keep him at that table. Now, I will tell you that with my firstborn, I let him rule the roost. You could say I had a child-centered home. I was nursing him every 2 hours, pretty much on demand, and I was not seeing good benefits from that. I felt like he would not eat enough if he was eating every 2 hours, to take enough milk to be able to go 3 to 4 hours before eating again. So I got myself into this thing where he was chipping and dipping all day long. And that was not the only thing I did that with. I did that with sleeping. He was taking cat naps all day long. It wasn't until after I had my second one that I finally decided, okay, well, actually I read a book, My First 300 Babies, and that helped me tremendously. It helped me to see that I, as a mom, could decide what's best for my child rather than me flowing around what the child wants. So that, I think, is a real key in being a mom, especially if you are going to have more. It's best to start that with your first. But I think there are many of us that do that with our firstborn. We don't know any different. We're just learning. And it didn't make any difference that I came from a family of 6 and was second oldest, took care of all of them. It didn't make any difference that I babysat. I had a wonderful babysitting business in high school and college. Yet when I had my own, it was a whole new ball game. It was very different for me. Thank you for those hearts. I appreciate it. So anyway, now would be the time with your firstborn to get things switched around a little bit so that your child is not directing everything in the home. And of course, all those other topics we talked about, sleeping and snacking and all that, are stuff we really should talk about in another day. But okay, so I'm going to hit that question that somebody just said. You feel guilty about taking time for me. My goodness, Mom, if you don't take time for me, you are not going to be a good mom. You are not going to be a good wife. You are not going to be a good parent. You have to be able to fill yourself up. And even if that's only during nap time, when your children are sleeping, you've got to do something for me. Now, each one of you decides, yes, you cry when you leave and can't stop thinking about it. I bet you only have one. Yeah, I did that with the first. It gets a little different after you have more. It does. It really does. But it is important, very important. You have got to have time to relax. You've got to have time to recharge. You've got to have time to fill up your own cup. And that is going to be individual for you as compared to anybody else. So, do you like to read? Do you like to take a hot bath at night? That was my salvation after I had numbers 3, 4, and 5 in such quick order within 16 months, because the last 2 were twins. That's when I started taking a bath at night. I had never really done that. But taking a bath then was my way to just relax, cast off the cares of the day, think about what I did that I want to change for tomorrow, listen to some music that just fills me up, and just not have anybody asking me for anything. You know, even when we go into our bathrooms to use the toilet, we are getting people knocking at the door, right? So, bath time at night, when all the kids are in bed, is a wonderful time to recharge. You may like to read, you may like to sew, you may like to exercise. You've got to do that. If you do not do that on a regular basis, daily, every other day, you are going to be a very worn out mom, and I hate to say this, but not a good mom. We can only give out so much without being recharged. And I know one of the times that I recharged was first thing in the morning. When my kids were little, they had to stay in their bedrooms till 7 o'clock. They could read if they were awake. They could just lay there in their bed, but they had to wait till the digital clock said 7:00 to come out, or until mom came in. Hi, Freckled Coconut. Glad to have you jumping on today. So that was wonderful for me because I got up at 6, took an extremely quick shower. Oh, I love that one, entitlement. An extremely quick shower, and then just had some time to read the Bible, read some scripture, things to fill me up and prepare me for that day. And boy, did I hang on to those scriptures when my kids were little. So take time for yourselves, Mom. Okay, entitlement. We do have a society full of entitlement. And you know what? We are not doing our kids a favor if we allow them to feel that they are owed something. They are members of a family, members of society. They are part of something that is bigger than themselves. So they need to realize that I am not owed anything. I have to walk my way through just like everybody else. I think sometimes that entitlement comes, I guess you can call it something that even starts with grandparents, because grandparents give, grandparents don't discipline usually, grandparents are just letting them do things they don't usually do. But you can have your own household rules and standards that they follow. That entitlement comes from giving them too much, or not helping them be grateful, say thank you for things after that. Entitlement just happens. I mean, my kids were not that way because we did not have a lot. There actually weren't the funds for us to be able to eat out and do all these special things. By 7th grade, they were responsible for earning some money and paying for their own shoes and clothes. That probably shocks you. That was a little bit ago. But still, everything should not be handled in a way where they get what they want. Oh, you want a new Nintendo? Sure, yeah, let's go buy you a new Nintendo. You've got to work on the grateful heart, but you've also got to work on not just giving them anything. And it's important, Mom and Dad, that you support them, that you help them, that you give them opportunities to work and earn those things, because those are amazing ways to get them away from that entitlement. They need to be able to have some stock in what they're getting. Good morning. Thank you, Gracie. Good to see you. Thank you. Glad you like that. Entitlement is just something that is a trap in our society today, but you have to be careful. And you know what, moms? You do have a choice. Even though you have the funds to be able to buy them all sorts of things, even though you can go out to dinner 3 nights a week, you might not want to do that. you might want to do things a little bit different. Now because our budget was so stretched when the kids were young, we even got to the place when they were all, let's say, 8 to 16 years old, where when we took a vacation, we gave them opportunities to earn money, or they could go outside the home and earn money so that they had money to bring on vacation. In fact, this will probably shock you, but we went to Silver Dollar City in Branson, great big amusement park, and we told our kids, we lived in Wisconsin, then we told our kids they had to earn enough money for their entrance fee and 2 meals inside Silver Dollar City, 2 dinners that we were going to eat. And everybody did it. And if they need help earning that, give them opportunities. See, you can still pay for it, but you can give, you can give them opportunities to earn it. And you know what? Our society is not a society where everything comes to you for free. You have got to work. And if you are giving your kids that idea of entitlement right now, what are they going to be like as adults? What are they going to be like on the job? No, you want to teach them to be hardworking. You want to teach them to be resourceful when they want something. How has that transferred into their adult lives? Oh my gosh, they are the best employees. I am telling you, they are sold out to whatever they do. My kids, when they were younger, they would go out and go to farmers around there and ask, can I pick rocks in your field? Can I do this? Can I do that? Is there anything you can hire me to do? When they got old enough, they would babysit. They also did some maintenance work at places where they would allow them to work at 14 years old. We always, when they were 16 and got their first jobs, they worked for Kohler Water Spa. Oh, thank you, Courtney. My kids are the most caring and giving. I believe they are too. They all worked for the Kohler company, Kohler Water Spa, or the workout facility that went with it. And it was to the point where they loved it and automatically got hired every time a new one would come up to the age of being able to work, because they were such hard worker, had such great attitudes. You are building stuff in your kids now that is going to make a difference in their adult life. If you want people to seek them out to be on the job, then this is how you need to train them, whether you have the funds to do it or not. Now, we did not have the funds, so a lot of it was just School of Hard Knocks. But you know what? My kids got to the point where I'd say, how about I go halvesies with you on these new tennis shoes you want? And I remember my son one time saying, no way. I want to know I paid for this myself. That's the kind of attitude you want to build in your children. Not that everyone else owes me and gives me what they're going to. So when my kids worked at the Kohler Water Spa, I have to tell you that when the last 2 quit working there, the director of the Kohler Water Spa came to me and said, you need to have more kids because we want more Andersons to be working over here. That's a pretty high compliment. And, you know, I say this very humbly. It's just the grace of God that I was able to parent the way we went through, and we did not do everything right. Oh my goodness. It was the School of Hard Knocks for us. And even though I share a lot of these things from my background in child development, from my, training with my own kids, but there's a lot of these things that I didn't pick up till numbers 4 and 5. Okay, this is just something that we did, and we were learning all along the way. We made lots of mistakes. Yes, I stayed home full time. My husband believed that was a priority, and so that's why we did without certain things. There were times that I did things in the home. I had a craft business, all kinds of things that I would do. There were people that had foster children, and when they needed relief, if I would babysit for several hours in a day, then they would, give me the compensation that went along with that. But no, we decided that I would be home full time. And I did wind up homeschooling my kids. And so that was really like a full-time job as well. That's my struggle. I work part-time from home, and it's hard. It was my choice to go back. It is hard. Yep. So you've got to be able, time management. That is probably something I should talk about next week. Although, if you go to the blog, KirbyAnderson.com, there is a link in there for like a 45-minute interview I did, and it was healthy tips on home management. And that will give you some things to start with, some ideas to start with. So, Next thing I want to talk about, and this is probably going to be a little sticky with some of you, but I had another mom write in about her toddler who was talking back. And so we're going to talk just a little bit about that. First of all, I think sewing time into your kids, thank you, I'm glad you liked the Q&A. Sewing time into your kids and building that relationship with them will allow them to want to behave for you. Now, I'm not saying that's, going to beat everything, but that is the first point, sewing time into your children. We talked earlier this week about having individual time with each of your kids, and there's several ideas that came out in my blog on Wednesday on what to do to spend time with your kids. I talked about when I was homeschooling, spending just 1 hour in the morning with my preschool kids, and that totally changed our time the rest of the day. They felt their cup was full. They had had time with me. So then they allowed me to go on and get things done that I needed to, which is really cool. Relationships are very important. That is the basis of raising our kids. If we want them to wind up having our values, our ways of doing things, then we've got to have a relationship. We've got to show that love first more than anything. The other thing that you have to do if you're experiencing these talking back things is begin to set the standard for first time obedience. Now, I will tell you that I am a little bit opinionated on this, but I believe this is a godly principle that should be followed. That if you give a directive, a specific directive to your child to do something which is very valuable, I'm not talking about jump over that log, then you should expect them to obey right away. Even at 2-year-old, they can say to you, I obey first time, or I obey right away. We want to teach them to obey our word. I mean, this is even a safety issue. If they don't obey your word and then they're running into the street and you can't get them to stop by just calling to them, that's not a good thing. If they're going to hurt themselves by touching a hot burner, if they won't listen to you and obey you first time, you're going to have a problem. My mom did that with me and my sisters. We do it with our kids. It is extremely important. So you have to teach that first time obedience. Now, in today's world, we have a lot of other philosophies going on about how to obey. So, one of those would be the 1, 2, 3 magic. And I do understand the philosophy behind that. It is allowing your child some space to be able to finish what they're doing, maybe. I think the heart is right in doing it, but I think if you are using a 1, 2, 3, then you are training your child to obey on number 3. Now, back in our days, it was counting to 10. Okay, Johnny, I want you to put that toy down. I'm counting to 10. 1, 2. You know what? You are training him to obey you at 9.75. He is not going to obey you until right before you do that 10. Do you want to do that every time you tell your child? Okay, so you're outside, his ball goes in the street, and he's wanting to go out there. Is that what you want? You want to count to 10? No, you want him to obey you right away. He needs to value your word, and he needs to listen, and he needs to obey. So these are important things to think of. It's also an issue then, Mom, when you are giving a directive, then you have to follow through. And there are times, like with toddlers especially, where you've got to think about, okay, am I going to be able to follow through with what I'm saying? For instance, the child's supposed to be picking up some toys and he's starting it, and you say, if you don't pick up those toys right now, then you're not going to get any lunch today. Okay, are you really planning on doing that? Are you really planning on taking away food because he didn't obey you? No. But whatever you do say, be careful, because you need to show the integrity of your word and the value of your word, and you have to be willing to follow through. The other thing is, we get so busy as moms. Oh my gosh. When my kids were all home, it was pretty crazy. I will say that there was so much going on. I mean, at any moment in time, if you stopped me, I had a list of probably 10 half emergency things that need to be taken care of right away. So you've got to be sure that you can follow through. And if you're having trouble with your toddler, then you've got to spend some focused time. You've got to get down to his face. You've got to hold it. Make sure he's looking at you. Make sure you're communicating, and then watch to see that he's obeying. Now, this is the time when you're training this, especially at this time. If you can train it now, moms, you are going to have it for the rest of the time. It's all with being a mom, sowing into that teaching in the first place so that you will reap the benefits for years and years and years to come. So make sure that you can follow through with what you're asking him to do. Okay, so I really like to use different types of discipline. And the first type of discipline is not discipline at all. It is positive reinforcement. Especially, when I'm dealing with my grandkids who I really don't want to have to use anything real strong with, I'm going to work positively. I'm going to give them some things to shoot for. I'm going to reward them with my words, that I recognize what they're doing, that I recognize they're complying with what I've asked, that I recognize they gave something up for somebody else, and I'm also going to set up some systems of rewards so that they have something to work for and be proud of and feel good about it. So my first point of attack is always that positive reinforcement, and it takes time. And I mean time in that you are saying this. My toddler tells me good job all the time. Oh my gosh. You know what? He's learned that from you, Mom. Good job. He's heard it from you and he's saying it. So watch your words around those kids. Okay, so there's also a timeout chair. Now that may be effective later on. I know that with my 5-year-old granddaughter, if she has a bad attitude, I'll say, okay, no problem. Why don't you just go sit over there until your attitude changes? And she comes back within 2 seconds and says, I'm happy. See, she can choose. She can change her mind. Now with a toddler, that's a lot harder. So a toddler, you've got to do some other things. But also, can you get a toddler to stay in a timeout chair? I wouldn't think so. 17-month-old in discipline. Great. Okay, so this is really an issue where I don't know if I recommend a timeout chair for a toddler. And you have to realize that at age 2, you are most likely going to experience some type of things that border a little bit on rebellion. I mean, this is a normal stage for them. In child development, they always told us that the testing 2s were so that the child could be a trusting 3. He's reaching out. He's checking where those boundaries are. He wants to make sure they're there, Mom. So you've got to put those boundaries up for him. We can talk about this extensively in another scope, but you've got to set those boundaries because he's reaching, trying to figure out, am I safe? Am I in this safe area? Or do I have to keep pushing out before anything's done? That means my boundaries are way out here, and that's scary. I want my boundaries to be here. So, although it is a little bit controversial, I do believe in doing what I call after clear expectations with your child, after they understand, this is great, thank you. Your almost 4-year-old has been a good listener. That's because you've trained them that way. You have trained them to listen to your word, and that is very important. Okay, if you give clear expectations, and let me tell you, even a 12 to 18-month-old can understand, don't touch the stereo. You just watch, stand there. They start touching it. And let's say the TV. We don't have stereos anymore, but that's what it was in our house. They reach out. You say, Johnny, don't touch the stereo. And he turns and he looks at you and he looks at the stereo. And he turns and he looks at you and he looks at the stereo. And he turns and he looks at you and he touches. He's asking you, are you serious, Mom? Are you going to back your word? So what are you going to do at that point? Ignore him? No. If you ignore him, then he will continue to disregard your word. And we taught, if children disregard our word, how are they ever going to obey authority? How are they ever going to obey God? They need to learn to obey you first. So, At this point, Johnny is touching the TV. Thank you for sharing this with your friends. I appreciate it. And hopefully there will be people, if they weren't able to catch this, who can get the link and watch it in catch.me. Okay, so at this point, I recommend a very calm, well-placed, given out of true love and concern, with cuddles afterward, SWAT. Okay? I don't want to talk about this extensively, but I will say that again. A calm, well-placed, given out of love, with plenty of love afterward, SWAT. I have some real specific beliefs on where, how, and other things like that. If you will send an email on our blog site, I will be glad to communicate that with you through email. So just write an email on KirbyAnderson.com. Okay, yeah, I would love to answer those specific questions, but it would be best if I just answer them via email. But if you do not get a handle on this between the time the child is 2 and 3, you will find you have to do it later, and it does become very, very difficult. So it's good for your children to learn that easier. And you know what? They are happier when they know that there are boundaries around them. Now, the one thing I do want to mention is if you give any sort of discipline, I'm talking timeout chair, I'm talking any kind of, taking away of privileges with a child that's maybe in grade school, just make sure that you are dividing between the child whom you love and the behavior that you do not approve of. That separation is extremely important. Your child should not be in the doghouse for doing something wrong. They should receive the consequence that goes along with it, but they should not be in the doghouse. And they should always know that any type of discipline, any type of taking away of privileges comes from a heart of love. Otherwise, it will not work, ladies. It will not work at all. So, positive motivators are always my favorite thing. I was a teacher, and I love to come up with positive reward systems and things that kids can earn and do, and it's just so much fun to see their behaviors change by just the positive rewards. I've got a little granddaughter. I talked about this probably a few weeks ago about kids getting up at night. And she very often will get up out of bed at night after she's been put to bed. And so we went over this in one of the scopes, having a bedtime without stress. And what worked with her is I would just say, hey, we're going to go through all the things, post on the rewards I use. No, that is a great idea. I think I'll do that this weekend. Watch for it. Rewards I use. Yes, all kinds of rewards. I will say the funny thing about this is one of the things I did with my kids was I would be so happy. I think this was with Jesse. So happy about something they did and wanting to reward him and not knowing what to do. And I said, you just deserve some bonus points. And so from then on, we established bonus points where we had a chart on the refrigerator, and they got bonus points for cooperating, giving up for their brother or sister, doing extra things around the house. And those bonus points were able to be turned in for whatever that child wanted. They were negotiable. Mom, I'd like some extra time on my iPod. How much time can I get for these 39 points I have? And so we would negotiate, and they would get rewards, and they loved that. Okay, back to my 5-year-old granddaughter. We went through this. I explained the whole thing to her. I said this was her bedtime. She was going to have to stay in bed. This was Grandma and Grandpa's time. She doesn't need to get up. So we went through everything she needed before bed. We spent plenty of time giving back rubs, foot rubs, reading a book, spending that time with her health, making sure she did potty, drink, brushed her teeth, everything else so she wouldn't have to come down and ask for something else. And then I'd say, hey, I've got a quarter here. I'm going to set it right on the dresser. And if you don't call me back or don't get out of bed, then in the morning, this quarter is yours. Oh my gosh, you think she died and gone to heaven. I mean, with my little 2-year-old grandson, any kind of money will do, a penny. And it's just a nice reward. It's just saying, hey, if you do this, and it is your choice, this is what you're going to get. And they love that. They get up in the morning, I got my quarter, I did it. It's just helpful if you can have those standards and they can follow those standards and just keep things at an even flow. If you do have more than one child, you are going to have some kind of standards, some kind of rules around the house, or you're going to have a really rough time managing your household and your children on a daily basis. So anyway, any other questions? Because I should probably go ahead and get off. I always love connecting with you moms, and please tell your friends about us. This is Mentoring Moments for Moms. And I just enjoy connecting with each of you, hearing your questions and comments. And feel free anytime. You are so welcome. Feel free anytime to get on our blog, KirbyAnderson.com. We blog on marriage, parenting, personal development, and health. And you can actually, thank you, I appreciate it. And thanks for all the hearts. You can actually look in the search box and say, okay, I want everything on parenting. And it'll come with all those blogs. Lot of great information, and it's cool because we have been pastors for 36 years. We were parents for a long time and learned a lot. And I do time management and rewards posts. Okay, there is one on home management. There's the healthy home management video. There's also one home management for time-stressed moms, or time management for time-stressed, help for time-stressed moms, something like that. But you can actually put in the search box what you want and then see all the different blogs. So we've enjoyed our past, and so many people along the way have asked us to write books, and we're like, yeah. Well, during those busy years, it was difficult. And when the Lord finally released us into being able to do our own ministry, our own business, our own being able to help people, we are just loving it. We are loving blogging, we are loving speaking, we are loving coaching people, and just being able to help them. When I heard about Periscope, I was just so excited because this is just me. I mean, I'm a person who just likes to shoot from the hip, who wants to just get on and just tell it like it is. And, you know, whether my ways are right or wrong, I'm sharing them with you, and you can try them. They may work for your kids, they may not. But you know what? Hopefully I'm giving you enough ideas that you can pick through them, and some of them will work and help you out in this adventure we call being a mom. So have a great weekend. I just want to encourage you to spend some special time with your husband. Make sure he's number one. Take care of yourself this weekend and spend some time with your kids. Appreciate all you guys. Have a great day.